I am live once again today, but I'm going to check it as I always do to make sure Facebook and the World Wide Web have not lied to me. And so far, it's saying that I am live. So good, I am live. All right, now that I've confirmed that we're live, I've got 2 or 3 videos today. I just did one with Kevin Lusk, and we talked about the mental health side of being kind of stuck at home. And it was pretty good. He was pretty honest with some of the stuff he struggled with. And I shared some stories too. But I thought, and I planned this last week or the week before, I can't remember, but I thought at least 1 or 2 days a week, we're going to do multiple videos. And I used to host a radio show with this young lady. We were just talking about her, how young she was. That's what we were talking about. We were talking about how young she was. This homeschooling thing is a breeze because she's learned it recently, and she's shaking her head. She's in the queue, and I see her shaking her head. But she owns a business. She owns Second Story Real Estate Management. She's also involved in a lot of other businesses. I think I'll let her tell you more about that. And she's a school board member. And we're not going to get political, so don't get all excited. If you're watching this and going to post questions, that's not what this is for. This is supposed to be kind of fun. So with that being said, I'm getting ready to bring Tiffanie right here with us. I'm going to hide that. Boom. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm Jim Dandy.
Yeah, we are.
We don't use that word enough. Jim Dandy.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I feel like I'm talking to, when I say things like Jim Dandy or Cattywampus, I feel like I'm talking to Henry Glasscock Pryor Bacon, the co-host, the former co-host of the radio show we used to do. Do me a favor, because I did such a poor job. Tell people the company you own and started. Tell them what the name of it is and what you do. That's not going to be the whole purpose of this video, but tell folks about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm Tiffanie Robinson, and actually I'm an owner of Lamppost Properties. I'm the CEO and president of Lamppost Properties, as well as Second Story Real Estate Management. Lamppost Properties is the parent company of Second Story, and we tend to market Second Story more to the public than we do Lamppost. Lamppost is a private development fund. So we build buildings, restore historic buildings downtown. And a few years ago, probably 5 years ago now, we started Second Story Real Estate Management as our brokerage and management arm. So Second Story manages a number of Class A and Class B properties around Chattanooga and North Georgia. We're also in Cleveland, Tennessee as well. And then we also have a great brokerage team who brokers commercial real estate for people who are looking to buy, sell, or lease property.
You know, I was on your website and I found something pretty cool, because I love helping businesses figure out what their story is. And on your website, you actually, and I think I have your website pulled up here. Yeah, it's called, oh no, I don't. But you have stories of your buildings.
Mm-hmm. Case studies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's actually, I mean, the title of it, if I'm not mistaken, is the story behind each of those buildings. Yeah. And I thought it was very cool. I was like, yeah, they understand the purpose of stories.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for that. It's good to hear that from a marketing person.
So real quick, did you own a business before you started this one, or was this your first business that you owned?
Yeah, this was not my first business that I've owned. So, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur since my early 20s. My husband and I actually started our first company together whenever we were 22. And that was a food company. It was a catering and mobile bar company. And we learned a lot from that business, and we were fortunate enough to be able to sell it when we were probably 26 or 27. And along the way, we had started a couple restaurants as well. And we sold our restaurants, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. So yes, I've owned a number of businesses, but I've been in the investment space for a while. I worked in venture capital before starting Lamppost Properties. I was the head of Lamppost Group, and we used to make investments into technology companies. I'm also a co-founder of the Jump Fund, and it's an investment fund that invests in female entrepreneurs. So yes, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for really my whole career, and have loved it. Have been, fortunate to maybe start those companies while I, was building my career. So it wasn't my only job. That was in my 20s. But now I'm in a position where my whole life is entrepreneurship and, building companies and building my own companies, and I feel grateful to do that.
Can you imagine owning a restaurant right now, the last 2 months? I mean, I've got a lot of friends that own restaurants, but you can probably empathize a lot more than most of us can.
Yeah. So my husband actually, he'd be a great guest for you. After we sold our restaurants, he actually moved on to become the COO for Chattanooga Whiskey.
Oh,
And 2 years ago, he left Chattanooga Whiskey to start his own consultancy and start investing in food and beverage companies. And so he's been doing that for the last 2 years. And ironically enough, right as COVID was happening, he was opening up his next concept, which is called Proof. And it's actually an incubator, an accelerator space for food and beverage entrepreneurs. So a place for them to actually try out their ideas before they sign a lease.
wow.
So, I mean, it's kind of like phenomenal timing. But on the other hand, too, the day that they were having their grand opening, everything started shutting down. So they never got a chance to open, but they immediately started doing webinars and consulting with restaurateurs on how to properly shut down their businesses. And so now they're actually working with people to reopen their businesses. So it's almost like it's so serendipitous. They're now going to be so valuable to the food and beverage community. And obviously their hope was to be valuable for, but now people are like, have actually experienced what it's like and, to have a crisis around hospitality and food and beverage. Anyways, you should have him on as a guest sometime. But all that to say, yes, I can 100% imagine what it's like to own a restaurant right now, because my husband and I are both like talking to people that we know that are losing everything right now, and
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking. I've cried a lot for them and cried for myself, wondering like what will this mean for real estate. But right now, I'm incredibly optimistic, and have really instilled that optimism in my team too. So we'll
How's
see.
it? Well, and let's jump off right there and talk about business part of it. So I've said this a bunch, but I've owned several small businesses through my career. I've sold a couple, I've made some money, and I've made some really great, decisions and some horrible
Bad
mistakes,
decisions.
just
Yeah, totally.
terrible mistakes. And I remember the terrible ones way more than I remember the great ones. Um, but I've said this to a bunch of folks. I think with your attitude and with attitude, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have very thick skin. They're good at turning and being flexible on the dime, turning on a dime. I think businesses have a chance to come out of this stronger because everybody had to learn how to do things differently. So,
Totally agree.
are there some things that you have learned that you'll kind of keep as you move forward?
Luckily, the day that, or not the day, but the week that this really all started like sinking in of like, oh, we are not going to be working together for a while. Like, like it was clear to me, like, I'm not going to physically see my team members for who knows how long. And we started working remotely, and we're an essential business. Like, I have a maintenance team that has not stopped working at all. Like, they've been on the front lines. They've been doing property calls and maintenance calls like since day one. And we do a lot of medical and healthcare management. So, my maintenance team has been in and out of like medical offices and hospitals like this entire time. So a big part of me was like, okay, well, I need to like make sure I create this structure for people in my company that can work remotely. But then on the other hand, I have people that can't work remotely. And I got to figure out how to make sure I keep them energized about that. Like, what if they start becoming worried about their own health? And so all that to say, though, pretty much immediately it dawned on me that like, oh my God, all the problems that we have operationally are going to become so obvious in this, in this whole thing. And so I got really serious about, having my department leaders immediately start solving the problems that they've been kind of like kicking the can down the road on, right? Like, oh, we had this communication problem with maybe like this one operational piece. No more. Like, you need to solve it right now, and you need to implement like that new process immediately. And so oddly enough, we've actually fixed a ton of our own problems. Like, we're operating more efficiently. Like, we're just being smarter about stuff. I guess in a lot of ways, you kind of naturally have to also figure out like what's important, what's like actually important versus like what's not. So I do think that my entire like company, like the 25 employees that I have, like everyone's become more laser focused on like the actual things that are important and not really like worried about the fluff. So that's good. So and I hope that those things will carry forward. Like, definitely the processes that we fixed though. Yeah. I mean, we won't go back to the old way. At least I don't see why we would. So, but I think that in general, like, we're still yet to see how all this impacts our business.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a ripple effect. I think it'll be like in the fall, we'll start seeing like, a bigger hit than maybe right now, but I'm an optimist. So I'm also saying maybe not.
Maybe not. I said this, pressure reveals leaks.
Yes.
And a good market or success in a business can, and I use the word spackle over the holes in the wall. If you're making money and things are going okay, it's easy just to throw success in that hole and go, it'll be fine.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it dries up and cracks and things go away. You don't have the success, or the pressure and pressurized the boat, the bottom of the boat starts leaking, and you're like, oh. And I think it's done for a lot of businesses what it's done for you. It's forced a lot of business owners, and it sounds to me like you're proactive, but to work on the business and not in the business, which is preached by everybody. You've not really had a choice.
Yeah, I agree. And so it's kind of interesting, like in my role, as the head of the company, like for the first 6 weeks, I was in the very pits of the day to day in every department, because I wanted to make sure that no one was not seeing like any potential shortfall during this time, because it was so important that we got it right now. But actually, oddly enough, like now that we've fixed so much, I'm actually like now looking at new opportunities. I'm like looking at starting new divisions and like starting like a third, entity that is a part of our portfolio company. And so that's cool, because if this hadn't happened, I maybe would have not been able to maybe move on to like some of these opportunities, because like, think about it. I'm not having as many meetings as I normally do, but I'm still having like very important conversations, and those things are happening on my like basically I'm not like filling up my calendar with things that maybe don't matter right now. So
yeah, I said that to somebody else. It's almost like when I'd say people have free time, business owners. I talk to every business owner. They're all working as hard as they've ever worked.
We work out a lot.
Yes, but like you said, though, but you have these pockets of time that were filled up with maybe unnecessary meetings, or to do stuff, but they weren't productive. Now that that's kind of been removed, it's revealed, the water's gone out, and you can go, man, I do have free time, but It's not free time I'm going to go do trivial stuff. I'm going to work on things I've wanted to work on for 2 years.
Exactly. So that's exciting to me, because I've had a lot going on and over the last several years, but then also even with starting this company, we started it really fast, and, we were lucky to grow really fast. Oddly enough, though, whenever we started 2020, the commitment that I made to my team, and it wasn't because they were asking for it, it's because it was a commitment that I felt like I needed to make to the company for the year of 2020, was that we were not going to have any growth in 2020. We were going to flatline for 2020 because we needed to fix just things like, just operational procedures and just focus on our people. And so like, that's been our motto all year. And so it's just really ironic that that's what the focus all along was going to be. And so, we were.
Do you think because you wished that and set it as a goal, this whole thing happened? Is it your fault?
It might be. Somebody did blame it on me early on, because I had said to them recently, like, I just want to spend more time with my kids. And they said, congratulations. Now you get to spend all the time in the world with your kids. Is this what you did this to us?
Are you the one that brought us murder hornets too? Are you bringing the business?
It was not me. In fact, initially I thought it was all of the teachers. And then my mind decided it's all the people who don't have kids. Because they're the ones that are flourishing right now.
Okay, so let's, and we'll come back to the business part, but let's kind of go over to what we talked about coming on. Some of us are having some anxiety and stress because we're not around people as much as we used to be. I just had a conversation. Yeah. Then there's some of us that are around people all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're in the all the time category because you have young kids.
Yeah, I am in the all the time category, and I am talking to my employees and, my colleagues all the time, but I still miss people too. I mean, I'm an extrovert, and somebody asked me yesterday, actually it was Kathy Lennon, who's one of my school board colleagues. She said, how are you doing? And I said, honestly, I just really wish somebody would plan a massive party that I could go to, because I'm an extrovert. I need social interaction badly. Like, I mean, you could invite me to any party right now and I would go to, I would stay the entire time from beginning to end. Like, so
I told Kevin, I said, I'm an extrovert from 8 a.m. till about 6 p.m. because I have to be on, whether I'm doing presentations or seminars or this, whatever. Right. So after about 6, I'm super introvert.
Yeah, I get that.
I just miss the invites that I can say no to. I said, I just miss being able to say no.
Like, you have nothing to say no to right now. I don't get to say no to a school board meeting. I don't get to say no to a work meeting. I don't get to say no to homeschooling my kids, and those are pretty much all my options right now. So.
But you're liking homeschool. I mean, I know we feel like we bleed over, but the homeschooling part, you kind of are. It's not been super difficult for you.
Well, I mean, I didn't really get to go into the whole thing with you, but so I appreciate my children's teachers more than ever now. That is for sure. And I do believe that teachers should be paid. I believe they should have been paid more before, but now I'm like, what's it going to cost? Because
you should be a school board member.
Yeah. Wait, what'd you say?
You should be a school board member. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've always voted for more teacher pay, but yeah, I mean, it's difficult to homeschool, no doubt. But once you get into a rhythm and a groove, like, yeah, you can totally do it. So, like, I think more or less, like, my husband and I have proved to ourselves, like, okay, if we had to do this, we could, but it's not our preference. Like, our kids are loving it though. So that's like a good and a bad. So they've done a great job adapting. They've really thrived in this. But on the other hand, like, it's going to be hell to send them back to school. So.
But it's a teamwork between you and your husband. A lot of people are single parents, may not have that.
You can't do it if you're working. I mean, that's what we discovered early on. So I was taking the morning shift at work and then taking the afternoon shift of the kids while he went to work or, needed to like go be on his computer working. And about a weekend, it was like, this isn't going to work. Like, we have to do this together because there's too many kids. Like, we have 3 and, they're all different ages. They all need something different. So we basically decided that I would take 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. to work. And then we homeschool together from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then we like split working in the afternoon. So, I mean, I'm getting more work time in than him right now, but he's taking one for the team. School's out in 2 weeks, thank God. So,
well, are you personally? Are you learning? Are your days so full you haven't had a chance to look at yourself because you're looking at your kids, you're looking at your business, but have you had a chance to go? This may be a good time for you to go. Is there a book I want to read? Is there exercise I want to do at night?
There is no time for that.
We're just ending the video.
I have definitely been working out more, but I was already working out a good bit during the week. Like, it was the one pre-COVID, like, working out was the one thing as like a working mom that I always do for myself. Like, I work out 3 days a week during my lunch break. Well, I don't have a lunch break anymore. So now I get up early. I get up at like 6 a.m. to go work out. And that's been great because now I'm getting myself into like a better morning routine. I mean, I have definitely I've heard people say like, oh, I've been reading this book or I've cleaned out this closet. I can barely keep my house clean. Like, it's a disaster all day long because there's 3 little boys throwing stuff everywhere and it's just like a tornado. And so, but
I thought you were married. Isn't there 4 boys?
Yeah, I have
There's 4 little boys.
I have 4 boys. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Mike's domestic though. Like, he'll actually do laundry. So
I do laundry. Yeah. Laundry's good. All right. So let's just take these questions off about the personal growth because you're growing your children and your business.
I'm growing children right now and I'm trying to grow a garden. So
are you really?
Not really. My kids are.
The
one thing I've gained out of this is that they're doing more slave labor. They're doing housework.
Good for you.
Like, they're unloading the dishwasher and loading it every day, watering the plants, feeding the dogs. Like, I will say that's been good. So,
child labor. That's good.
Why do you give birth if they aren't going to do any work for you?
That's true. My kids are older now. And so my son will come by every now and then and he'll be like, do you need any help? I'm like, man, because we were where I live in East Ridge, we were on the fingertip of where the tornado started.
Oh, wow.
Behind Camp George. So we had literally, people think I'm exaggerating until they come by and drive. My neighbor's got 50 trees off the hill in his backyard gone. I had like 13, but it was just playing with us before it went over the Camp Jordan area and then really got serious. Mm-hmm. But I told him, I said, yeah, man, you can come over. I got trees to cut up and brush to haul. He came over one day and then he'll text me like 3 days later. Do you still need help? I'm like, yeah, every day, dude.
Yeah,
you big 21-year-old.
Get over here.
Of course I need help. My daughter who stayed with me for the last 5 weeks, she just transitioned to her mother's. She loves to cook. She doesn't mind to clean. So that was perfect. She would be like, I think I'm going to try something new tonight for dinner. And I'm like, have at it.
So the problem is that I don't have girls. That's my ultimate problem.
Absolutely. Because it's left up to dad. We're all having sloppy joes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
It's meat in a can, then pour a can in. There's some bread. Have at it. She's putting together. So we watch the Food Channel, the Food Network.
Mm-hmm.
So she actually will make a dinner, and I kid you not, she'll plate it like they do. And then she'll go, look at that presentation, Dad.
That's pretty
And I'm
awesome.
like, oh, she's so good at that. She's so good.
Great.
The other side of, let's say we've talked a little bit about business. You've talked a little bit about personal. The other thing that you do is, and I still think you'll probably end up running for a political office that's up. Let me turn that off. But you're on the school board.
I am. Mm-hmm.
So what district do you represent?
Yeah, I represent District 4, and District 4 is like Murray Hills, which is on Highway 58,
Yep.
all the way through downtown to Alton Park. So I represent a majority of the city of Chattanooga. So it's a county district, but my whole district is within the city, and it's a majority of the city. So majority of downtown have 14 schools that I represent.
Why in the world would you get involved in any kind of thing anything about politics, but especially that? What drew you to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's easy. I'm a mom, and I have 3 kids now. And whenever I ran for the school board, I had 2. Had a third, a year ago. And I want to live in a community where my kids can go to a great public school, and they can go to any public school, and I can be excited about it. I've lived now in Chattanooga for 12 years probably, and I've kind of adult-wise grew up here. I've had my whole career's here, been here. And whenever I was pregnant with my first child, I remember hearing over and over again of just like how poor performing Hamilton County schools are. And that just really bothered me, because I grew up in Tampa, Florida, where I went to a great public school from kindergarten to 12th grade. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. And frankly, if it hadn't been for the great public school that I went to, I wouldn't be where I am today. My high school it got me college ready from the time I was in elementary school. My school identified my strengths. I ended up being in like the gifted program, and I became the first person in my family to go to college. And I think that every community needs to have great schools. That schools should be the backbone of our community. There are economic development drivers. And, I got really passionate about the fact that our schools were not performing well. And then, of course, there were a lot of things going on within like central office, the Ottawa rape case. And it just kind of set me off. Like, I just said, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to live here and raise my children here if we can't have great schools. And it's just not in me to complain about something and not do anything about it, unfortunately. My husband would say that's an unfortunate thing about me. So I said, I'm going to run for the school board. And luckily, I have a great support system at home. My husband's incredibly supportive. And it turned out that the district that I live in, the story that I have really matches the children and the students that live in District 4. A lot of them are coming from homes of poverty, from single parent homes. And that really just, encouraged me even more to really go for the school board seat. And I did, and I won, for better or worse. And the last 4 years have been incredibly hard for the school board and the school system, but also like a big upswing. Like, we've seen a lot of improvement in our school district. We have a lot of schools that have seen great improvement that they haven't seen really maybe even ever. Our school system is getting, the recognition on the state level that it's never seen before. And we have a really great superintendent, So we've been through a lot of hard stuff, like the Woodmore accident, a very intense superintendent search, potentially a state takeover, now COVID, and then, of course, the tornadoes. This has been a really wild ride for the last 4 years.
Well, I will say before, because as you're talking, I'm writing down little bullet point questions I want to ask you. But I will give a shout out to private school and public school teachers.
Absolutely.
Because I have watched it. I've got friends that are public school teachers, and I have watched school teachers, no matter where you are, turn on a dime. And the majority of them have, if you think it's hard for a kid to learn how to learn at home, think of a teacher learning how to teach 50, 60, 70 kids from home with no real control of the classroom, not being able to answer questions almost in real time, technology issues. Some kids have computers, some kids don't.
Right.
I just think they've done a really good job.
I agree. And I was incredibly impressed with Hamilton County, how quickly, I don't have the experience of knowing how it's gone on the private school side. That's great to hear. But I was very impressed with how fast HCDE shifted the learning structure for teachers and students. And I've just been incredibly impressed with teachers through this whole thing. And this has been a lot for everyone to deal with. Parents are stressed, they're exhausted, maybe losing their jobs, may not, but still working an excessive amount, not knowing if tomorrow they will lose their job. Teachers in the same situation, maybe they have a spouse that's lost their job. Maybe they're at home teaching and teaching their own kids. I mean, it's a lot for everyone.
But not only that, and then I want to ask some of the school board questions, but not only that, and for the first time, there's about every 10 years, it seems like we all go through something where it literally everyone is experiencing it together.
Yes.
Whether it's the crash of '08, whether it's 9/11, it's almost now to a point where when we say we're all in this together, your experience may be different. Everything may be different about your life and unique, but we're all going through this together. And in the back of our minds, even though we read about it, you're doing work, I'm doing work, but we also don't want to get sick. We don't want to get other people sick. We don't want our grandparents, our parents to get sick. We watch the news like, are kids still okay? Or can my cat give it to me? Can the dog give it to the cat and the cat give it to me? How about goldfish? I got a goldfish. There's all these unknowns about our health. And that's kind of just sitting in the back of our mind all the time.
Right.
It's always sitting there. We forget the reason it is. When you started looking at the school system here and you referenced the school system you came from, when you came here as best you can, what was the difference between where you came from and what it was like when you came here? Or can you speak to that?
Yeah, no, I can. Yeah. So I came to Chattanooga when I was 22. So, I wasn't paying attention to schools when I was 22. Along the way though, and like my community involvement, I started hearing, I just started learning like, oh, clearly people don't think very highly of their school, of the public school. So yeah, so growing up in Tampa, or in like a suburb of Tampa, specifically Plant City, Florida, our schools were definitely more forward thinking in the state of Florida than Tennessee has been. Now, I've seen that change as well over the last 5 years or so.
What does that mean though? Forward thinking. What does that mean?
Yeah, they're thinking differently about how students are learning early on. Like whenever I was a child, when I was a child, we were already talking about well, maybe you don't want to go to college. Maybe that's not the right fit. So what could be other options for you? Other options were on the table whenever I was growing up. And I saw that in my high school. And that was a first trial period of that kind of thinking then. So that was very forefront. They were definitely thinking differently about testing as well. Which is great. I'm not really a big advocate of testing, but, I'm definitely learning, there's two sides to every coin. But I definitely think on the state level, we could be thinking differently about how we're expecting our school districts to test, as well as what's expected of students and teachers.
I think a lot of times we teach kids to take tests.
Yeah.
That's what we do a lot of times. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Teachers don't want to operate that way, but whenever the state is forcing our school districts to do that, and that's a state legislative problem, right? That's a thing that our elected officials on the state level have to decide to correct. And a lot of them are disconnected from public schools. And I'm not bashing anyone. It's just kind of the truth. But we can talk about that another time. So, but also, I grew up in a very diverse community. Socioeconomically, racially, culturally, that's also what's different than what has been the case in Hamilton County for a long time. But now you see in Hamilton County a big influx of even the Latino community moving here and living here. And, different cultures have different needs, but more importantly, we need to be, I think that the school system, whenever I was growing up, really honing in on how do different cultures shape the rest of us, and how do we, like foreign language as an example, that should be a very welcomed item in any great school system. And so, Hamilton County, I think it has not been as diverse as it's become over the last decade. And I think that the school system was slow to catch up. Now, over the last 2 years, since Dr. Johnson's been here, he's done a good job of helping us catch up even more, but we still have some work to do on that front.
But and again, we might need to have just a video about the school board stuff, because I think that's great conversation. Are you okay with about 5 more minutes? I know you have a phone call.
Yeah.
But and I'm glad you said that. And if you're okay with it, I really would love to have a school board video with you and talk to you more about
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
So because I don't want to go down these rabbit holes, or it'll be 45 minutes and you'll be just clicking off because you got to go take an important phone call. So we'll leave that one right there. But behind the scenes, what is one thing, now that you're part of the system, young lady, now that you're up there, what's one thing that surprised you when you got into it and started seeing how the dinner was made, and you were like, well, I didn't understand that. Is there something that sticks out?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, whenever I ran, now I will say that it wasn't a majority of things, but there were no doubt things that whenever I got in, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. And even whenever you're campaigning, you think that you know the answers to everything, but the reality is you don't, because you haven't done the work. So, yeah. So I mean, to be honest with you, so my first year on the board, I was the chair of the finance committee, and actually am technically still the chair of the finance committee now. It's just that we've restructured how we do committees. But for that first year, I mean, I heavily led that budget process. And that was a really great experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. But I also got a really good understanding of the numbers, of our school system numbers. And people in the community really think they understand it, and they don't. I mean, unless you're going to take the time to read the 450-page budget document that comes out each year that we all 9 read and that we shuffle through and we make decisions around. It's easy to read the headlines on the newspaper and believe that you know everything about what the school system's really doing with their money. But like, the reality is that you don't, unless you're doing the work. And so there were areas that first year where I came to the realization of like, oh, I was grossly misunderstanding how the budget process actually functions with the school system. But on the other hand, too, there were things that I was right about, and I've been happy about the fact that I've been able to see changes made around the budget process, and the things that were important to me. And luckily, we're aligned with my other colleagues on the board too. So so I would say around the budget process, also really most people don't understand like where school systems get their money from, and right. I think that that's important to understand too. And the general public thinks they have a good understanding of it, but most of them do not. But then they vote on whether or not more money should go to the schools through a property tax increase. So it's there's a lot of like double-edged swords around that. So.
Well, and it's ironic or sad or happy or whatever, insert, your descriptive term here. You can have people of the board see the same numbers, go through the same 450 something pages, and still come out of it with different perspectives, because everybody has 2 things. We see what we look for, and we all have our own predetermined lenses, right? Sure. That sometimes we can't help. But I think too, the headlines, none are misleading, but the things that the school board agrees on aren't going to make the front page headlines. That's not what really gets the clicks. It's the disagreements and it's not the media's fault, but it's the disagreements that you guys get in. That's where the headlines are. Yeah. That's where we get the National Enquirer stuff. We like that. So right now, let's just go ahead and knock this out of the way, and then we'll go back to fun stuff. We're going to end it on fun stuff. Right now in the headlines, there's some budget issues going on. I've been watching it. You want to give me the thumbnail sketch on that real quick and kind of bring everybody up to speed on why and how?
Yeah, well, so this is budget season, and we, let's see, 2 weeks ago, we had our board meeting, our regularly scheduled board meeting, and we always vote on the budget in April so that it can go before the county commission in May. And that budget is for the upcoming school year, so 2020-2021 budget. And we voted to not vote. So we voted to halt the budget process because of COVID, and we wanted to wait to hear if the county, specifically the county commission, had more information for us on what we should expect as far as sales tax and growth income is for this year, which would then roll into our budget that we were supposed to approve.
Right.
So we voted to halt the process, and unfortunately we did not receive any information from the county commission. So we were forced then to move forward the following week with voting on the budget, and we decided to vote on a lowered budget, which was a budget that would have no increases, and that would have a freeze on teacher pay increase, any hiring, as well as a freeze on a few other like operational items. So So we voted to pass that budget and present that to the commission. So that's basically a balanced budget of exactly what we spent this past year. And every year the board, if it's a good economy, you'll see some increase in funds to the school system.
Right.
Typically like somewhere between like maybe $5 and $10 million. And don't forget, we have a $420 million budget. So $5 million out of 420 is maybe like, 1.5% increase. So, but the next day we got an email from the county saying that actually they wanted us to add 1.8 million back into our budget because there's a law called maintenance of effort, which means that they can never give us anything less than what they gave us last year by law. And the 1.8 million actually keeps them out of violating maintenance of effort. So then we had an emergency meeting on Monday to vote to either the proposal was to reinstate teacher pay increase, which is frozen in the budget that we approved the prior week.
Right.
So we voted on that on Monday. Unfortunately, that vote did fail. I did vote to reinstate teacher pay raises because that means we'd have the exact amount of money to do it. And I promised teachers, like publicly, like in our meeting, that if we had the opportunity to add that money back in, that was going to be my first priority. So I did vote for that, and unfortunately that vote failed. So we're going to be putting that money into our rainy day fund, which is also a wise move. And so I'm not upset about that move, but I do hope that if it turns out that we can utilize that money, I do hope that we'll put it toward teacher pay increases.
I agree. Sometimes both things can be true. Two things can be true at the same
That's exactly
time.
right.
And
Yeah.
I hope we get to give the school teachers the raise they deserve too.
Right.
But seeing that we don't know what the future holds for the next 12 to 36 months, really,
Right.
I think it's also good to have a little money sitting there in case something does go wrong.
No doubt.
Because anyway, so it's not a great place to be. But
it was a vote of, which is the lesser of both evils, and it really wasn't a yes or no vote, but unfortunately that's how the media sees it. That's how the public sees it. That's how teachers see it. And I do hate that because we have really great teachers in our system and we have, 5,000 employees that we want to know are appreciated. And I think the only way that we can continue improving our school district is by keeping really great people, in our schools.
Well, social media, right now everybody that a lot of people I went to high school with, they're constitutional experts, they're virus experts, they're school board member experts, because I get to share an article that affirms what I believe. And I too now am a scholar. I have a Facebook degree. You don't know that, Tiffanie, but I have a real estate license from Facebook. I know all about investing. Hey, I know you have a call to get to here in just a minute. I'm going to finish the whole thing up unless there's something else you want to say with a would you rather game that me and my daughter have been playing.
Okay.
There's 3 questions.
Okay.
So everybody gets to know you better. Are you ready?
Okay. Ready.
If you could only eat one for the rest of your life, pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes. I don't even like waffles.
Okay. Do you put peanuts in your Coke? Have you ever had that?
I have done that. And it is actually really good, but I don't do it on a regular basis.
I do it every now and then. And when I do it, usually if I'm in a place, all the older people look at me and smile and go, I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
That's awesome.
All right. Last one for you. If you could only have one for the rest of your life, and I know you're you're a health person. You like keeping yourself in shape. But if you can only have one, onion rings, French fries, or tater tots?
French fries.
I went with tater tots. I went with waffles because they have those little square areas that catch butter and syrup. All right, do me a huge favor. Tell everybody how they can find, and I've got it on the screen here. Is it secondstory.properties?
Yeah, that's it. It's great.
Okay. And from there, you can help folks find the lease. You can help them sell, buy properties, anything to do with the real estate commercial world. Yeah,
anything to do with commercial real estate. We also have an apartment division as well. And so if you're looking for a place to live, we can place you in one of our apartments too.
Thank you. I know that went longer than I told you it would, but that was fun. Yeah. And if you're okay with it in a couple of weeks, we ought to do a school board conversation.
Yeah, we could do it maybe before the next school board meeting. So just let me know.
When is that next school board?
It's always the third Thursday of the month.
2 weeks. All right. Thank you very much, Tiffanie.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Stay safe. Bye. Thank you.